Love yourself first. Arun was 16 years old and lived in a small town. Every day, he watched other people succeed and wondered why he could not be like them. At school, there was a student who always got the highest marks. Another student was a talented athlete. Someone else could sing beautifully. Arun looked at them and felt small. Whenever he made a mistake, he was very hard on himself. If only I were smarter. If only I were stronger. If only I were more talented. These thoughts followed him everywhere. One evening, after a difficult day at school, Arun sat alone near a lake. The water was calm, but his mind was full of worries. An old gardener who worked nearby noticed him. "You seem troubled," the gardener said kindly. Arun sighed. "I feel like I'm not good enough. No matter what I do, someone else is always better." The gardener sat beside him and smiled. "Would you like to hear a story?" Arun nodded. The gardener pointed toward a small seed lying on the ground. "Do you see that seed?" "Yes," said Arun. "Can that seed become a giant tree tomorrow?" "Of course not." "Why not?" "Because it needs time to grow." The gardener smiled. "Exactly. Yet many people expect themselves to become successful overnight. They compare their first chapter with someone else's 20th chapter." Arun thought about those words. The next morning, he decided to change something. Instead of comparing himself to others, he would compare himself to who he had been yesterday. It sounded simple, but it was not easy. The first challenge came at school. When the exam results were announced, Arun scored lower than one of his classmates. Normally, he would have felt disappointed all day. But this time, he asked himself a different question. Did I learn something new? The answer was yes. For the first time, he focused on progress instead of perfection. Days turned into weeks. Every evening, Arun wrote 3 things in a notebook. Something he did well. Something he learned. Something he was grateful for. At first, his list was short. I answered a question in class. I helped my mother. I finished my homework. But over time, the list grew longer. I was brave enough to speak in front of my classmates. I kept trying even when the work was difficult. I encouraged a friend who felt sad. Slowly, Arun began to see himself differently. He realized that success was not only about winning awards or being the best. Success was also about kindness, courage, discipline, and persistence. One day, his teacher announced a public speaking competition. The old Arun would never have entered. He was afraid of making mistakes. He was afraid of being judged. Most of all, he was afraid of failing. But the new Arun remembered the gardener's words. A seed becomes a tree by growing a little every day. So he signed up. When competition day arrived, his hands trembled. His heart beat fast. As he walked onto the stage, hundreds of eyes looked at him. For a moment, he wanted to run away. Then he took a deep breath and began speaking. His voice shook at first. He forgot a few lines. He stumbled over some words. But he kept going. When he finished, the audience applauded. Arun did not win first place. In fact, he did not win any prize. Yet as he walked home, he felt happier than ever before. Why? Because he had conquered something more important than the competition. He had conquered his fear. That night, he wrote in his notebook, "Today I learned that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward despite fear." Months passed. Arun continued improving. He read books. He practiced speaking. He studied harder. He exercised regularly. Some days were good. Some days were difficult. But he no longer gave up when things became hard. One rainy afternoon, he met the gardener again. The gardener looked at him and smiled. "You seem different," I feel different, Arun replied. What change? Arun thought for a moment. I stopped waiting for someone else to tell me that I was valuable. The gardener nodded. That is an important lesson. Then he asked, tell me, what do you see when you look at yourself now? Arun smiled. I see someone who is still learning. I see someone who makes mistakes. I see someone who is not perfect. The gardener laughed gently. That doesn't sound very impressive. Arun grinned. I haven't finished yet. I also see someone who never gives up. I see someone who is growing. I see someone who deserves respect. And I see someone worth loving. The gardener's eyes sparkled with pride. Now you understand. Years later, Arun became a successful entrepreneur and speaker. People often asked him the secret of his confidence. They expected him to talk about money, education, or success. Instead, he always shared a simple lesson. The day my life changed was not the day I earned my first success. It was the day I stopped hating myself. It was the day I learned to be my own friend. He explained that self-love is not arrogance. It is not believing you are better than everyone else. Self-love is believing that you are worthy even while you are growing. It is forgiving yourself when you fail. It is encouraging yourself when life becomes difficult. It is respecting yourself enough to keep moving forward. Many people spend years searching for happiness in the outside world. They search for it in achievements, money, popularity, and praise. But Arun discovered that real confidence begins inside. When you learn to love yourself, you stop being controlled by every criticism. You stop comparing yourself to everyone around you. You stop waiting for permission to believe in your own worth. And that is when your true journey begins. So if you ever feel that you are not good enough, remember the lesson of the seed. A seed does not become a mighty tree in one day. It grows little by little. So do people. Trust your journey. Celebrate your progress. Be patient with yourself. And most importantly, love yourself through every stage of growth. Because the person you spend your entire life with is yourself. Make that relationship a beautiful one. Moral: loving yourself is not about being perfect. It is about accepting who you are, believing in your potential, and continuing to grow no matter how many times you fall.